Don't say what I can't.
Are we loud enough? I think we are.
You are probably loud enough.
Yeah. Really? What are you trying to say?
Cyborg versus robot.
Hello, I'm
Hi.
Fal, and I am the robot.
The robot?
Yeah,
That's all?
I am the robot, and recalled model.
Okay.
There you
Phew.
go.
And I'm Christa, and I am the cyborg. Are we using the?
Yeah,
now?
we're.
Do you know what I was thinking about? Because you are often you have an and.
I do.
And you know how on our iTunes description it says 5 pseudo robot 17 and Christa Mecha Minx Couture?
Oh yeah.
And I haven't. Yeah, remember that? Which we got from.
Small wonder.
Yes.
Yeah.
But as a nickname, it hasn't really stuck. Like, I mean, you this morning may have even given me a new.
I did.
And
Do you want me? No, I'm not going to say
save
that.
that. Let's save it for another time. But you know who does call me Mecha Minx?
Who?
Siri. You want to hear it?
Yeah, I do. Oh, and this is Cyborg versus Robot, and we're trying.
Sure is.
Yeah.
A Real Humans podcast. It's back to being a Real Humans podcast after our little foray
after
into
our
Dr. Hugh.
lovely guest, Dr. Hugh.
Dr. Hugh.
Again.
I didn't say that
You did.
again. I'm ridiculous.
We had a lovely guest spot with Fiona.
A guest spot?
Oh, and we're back to the Sirens recording. One day we are going to go record somewhere else, which is siren free, but that day is not today.
The day is not today. Siri, what's my name? What's that one?
Some yelling
there
outside.
Oh, are you broken? Siri, what's my name?
You're Christa, but you asked me to call you Megamix.
Yeah.
There you go.
See. What?
There's some yelling going on. All right, I'm gonna. I know there's a window open, so I'm gonna close that.
But other than Siri, no one else calls me that. And I'm wondering why you think.
Closing out a bit of the noise. That was not helping closing out the noise. I'm glad we're off to a good start.
This is all gold.
We'll keep it in because we're gonna try and keep the schedule this time. So this week we are talking about what are we on now? Episode 6?
Gosh, episode
7.
7 of Real Humans, Blind Love.
Which was directed by Levin Aiken again.
Once again, and of course, written by Lars Lindstrom.
Who, you did not tell me, you pointed out his other show, but he also wrote for Wallander.
What's that?
It's the television series based on the Henning Mankell series.
Oh, really?
It was remade in English, starring Kenneth Branagh. It was a big deal show.
Oh, yeah, Lars is an established guy.
Yeah. So this show originally aired the 26th of February, 2012. But first...
But first you're going to choke
I
and
know.
die.
So
Dude, I don't want to
dry.
have to record this podcast by myself. Keep it together.
It can't be helped. I don't know why. Is it dry in here? It's dry in here. In my mouth parts. My mouth parts are dry. So there's that. I'm wetting them with water.
Which is, I think, a great solution.
So for...
Ooh. Bum, bum.
I'm sure. We will agree that was funny. For the sake of moving forward. So that we can talk about the other thing we're going to talk about.
Think of solidarity.
Well, it would be liquidarity.
Hey, we're
there
also
you
going to
go.
pretend that's funny.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Because we're a team.
Yeah.
So we're also talking about Helen Disconnected, which is a short film that I believe came out this year.
Sure.
Someone's going to look that up and check, because nobody wrote it down. I do know that
you wrote it down right there.
No, 2013 is Tara Price's last short film.
Oh.
I did note on IMDb, which is how I wrote it in my notes, because that's what I call it, that the short film is called The Routine. So if you're looking that up, if you're like, where's the IMDb listing for Helen Disconnected, it's because it's called The Routine. It was directed by Brian Gros. The DOP is, I like saying in French, Julien Lasseur. And
or Julian Lasser was probably more.
because he's in LA. We don't know. We don't. He could maybe he's francophone. The production designer Jamie Thalman, produced by Becky Train, and written by and starring Tara Price, which, according to her IMDb profile, it is Tara.
And she's done some other stuff in the world, like CSI and...
Yep, she was in a 2007 episode of CSI Miami. She has a 1-minute acting reel on Vimeo that you can check out. She's been in various...
Let's link to that.
Yeah, we will. She's had kind of bit TV parts. She's been in various films. It sounds like she does a lot of theater in her area.
Nice.
Also wrote and starred in a short film. That's the 2013 one called Another Grace and Johnny Adventure, Zombie Island. That's all I know about her. But I like her.
That's enough.
I like her.
Yeah. So this film is about... it starts out with a seemingly OCD woman going around a home, cleaning it.
Yeah. Getting the mail, doing laundry, making a gross sandwich.
And I read in one of the posts that one of the challenges of filming this, or writing this and filming it, was to make 6 minutes of someone cleaning their house interesting.
But they do. They vary the shots slightly.
Mm-hmm.
As far as because I think in that they also talk about making this film on a budget, and they do a really good job of sort of stretching the setups because they use maybe the same setup, but they just change something in the frame. They do a lot with little. It's well done. Yeah.
We find out there's a phone call that happens early on. We hear a lot of our woman, Tara Price, is not answering her phone, and we hear a lot of these video phone call pickups, and we see some...
And they kind of tell the story in a way.
Yeah. Helen has detritus, and it's very fixable if she comes in and gets it taken care of.
The garden has...
The garden has detritus. Helen has also detritus.
Yes. And the granddaughter called, because at first you're like, wow, what's up with this woman? And she's repeating these tasks and doing everything 3 times. And so what we have on our hands, actually reminding me of Real Humans, is another dead grandma. That's the giveaway. That's the giveaway. But it's not a huge surprise at the end, because you kind of know something weird is up.
Yeah.
But
and if you haven't by now, there's spoilers for this.
And the Tara Price, is her name Helen? Or is the grandma Helen?
The grandmother is Helen.
Okay, so
because all the phone calls come in for Helen, and there's one that talks about when her granddaughter calls in, she talks about, do you like the HomeBot that your dad got?
It's called the HomeBot. And then there's also the message saying that this HomeBot has been recalled.
Yeah, from Home Care Technology, which they, mandatory recall, not a big deal. And we're seeing through this routine, which is... collecting the mail and the newspaper, making tea and tomato sandwich.
Weird meat sandwich.
Is it weird meat as well? Mm-hmm. Doing some laundry.
So it's, the task does get repeated, but each time it's a little different, and each time our HomeBot's getting a little weirder.
A little weirder to the point where near the end of the I was going to say episode, but near the end of the short, starts putting slices of tomato in the teacup and putting sugar on the sandwich.
Putting books in the laundry.
So...
It's very cute. It's a cute, tidy little tale about a HomeBot going wrong. It made me think of when you said how you would have had, Rick recalled.
Yeah, well, that was the reason I wanted to watch this, is because of Real Humans, when there was Rick's model committed a murder... or a rape.
Yeah, there was an assault.
And they didn't issue a recall. There wasn't really a statement from the Miyake
There was no 1-800 number if you have questions or concerns.
Yeah. Some bad PR.
Whereas here, the HomeBot, someone's on it. They're trying to get them back in, but...
Well, they have this kind of the guy who calls, he's a bearded guy.
How does that have to do with
I did not look up this is going to matter because he speaks in this very, we just wanted to see how your HomeBot is doing, and not a big deal, but there's this mandatory recall which you want to call us back, but he has this shit-eating grin,
right? And
it just lays it out exactly the way you would think a corporation would do it. Mm-hmm. So the reason I wanted to watch this time is because of the Rick thing that happened in the last... the Rick-related thing that happened in an earlier episode, and because...
Vera? I mean,
Vera
in our
was
Real
hired...
Humans world, this homebot would be a Vera model as far as the person who does the
Well, they call them
domestic...
homebots as well.
Is Vera called a homebot?
I believe so,
homebot,
yeah.
H-H.
Homebot. So, in Helen Disconnected or The Routine, it's by Home Care Technology rather than the Miyake Corporation. Mm-hmm. So,
a subsidiary.
Or competing, you know, that maybe they were the Zune of Hubots. I actually really like that.
We're
idea.
tying in all the fictional worlds into one.
Yeah.
In Cyborg vs. Robot, all of these things exist at the same time in the same universe.
Well, and we saw Odie doing these glitching as well.
Yeah, we like the parallels.
So that's pretty much it. We'll leave a link up to the video, the short, Vimeo on our website, cyborgversusrobot.com.
And we'll tweet at Julian. He's at least on Twitter. I don't know about the rest of them.
I think we've got some news which I want to talk about when we talk about Leo earlier on. But there is also some news about the English remake of Real Humans called Humans.
Of Twitter, I just saw that. Tell me.
Yeah, you didn't go through the link. I didn't figure you would have time, so... Kudos in Britain or Channel 4, who did Life on Mars, is doing the remake of Äkta människor, which we know as Real Humans. And they are calling it Simply Humans.
Simply Humans.
Not Simply Humans. They are calling it...
Humans.
Humans. It's probably because there have been other Beyond Human and Almost Human and simplifying it down to humans.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's going to create confusion.
And they're referring to their Hubots as synths.
Oh, as synths. Like synthetics.
Yeah. So I think they're kind of connecting. But what happened is a little while ago, Microsoft shut down their Xbox programming, which they had started, who was the co-producer on Humans. So the fate of the English remake was a little bit up in the air until AMC, who does Mad Men, they're doing the Breaking Bad prequel.
So now it's a co-pro with AMC. Does that mean we're also going to get it in the States?
They'll broadcast it in the States, but it also may mean a little bit more money. Or less money, I don't know. It'll be a British
But it'll still like to maybe take place in Britain and have accents? Are they going to talk funny?
I'm going to guess that it's probably going to still take place in Britain.
Yeah.
Much like Doctor Who is a BBC America co-pub or co-production.
Co-pro.
Co-pro.
That's what we say in the biz.
Co-pro?
Co-pro.
Nice. So yeah, that's my bit of humans news.
That is newsworthy.
Yeah. And it's interesting to note that they're calling them synths rather than... I hope they do keep the Hubot name.
Yeah.
I just like the name. The name is catchy.
Mm-hmm. And the whole suffix bot, I mean, is in place.
It would be a good name. Synths, though, maybe much the way that the show is calling them Pac-Men.
Oh, okay.
Or
more of like a slang or a colloquialism.
Mm-hmm. Because it is a colloquialism. Synthetics are used to refer to our non-organic human friends in the U.S.
Just the U.S.? I mean,
in the Americas, I think it's
like an English language thing.
I don't know for sure.
Me neither.
We would have to have our listeners write in
and tell us how broadly used is the word synthetics used? How broadly used is it used? I could phrase that better.
Yeah, I did use it on the cover of one of the two
Playbot issues,
the Playbot and Hublove,
yeah.
Which the Hublove cover will be released into the world by now.
Yeah.
And I realized after I made the two...
Like a wild animal.
Because I made them really late at night, right after watching the episode which featured the magazine covers. I realized that I rather, perhaps unfairly, just chose two ladies to grace the covers of both issues.
You were drawing on your own preferences.
I was drawing on my own preferences, and I felt a little... Which you were
allowed to do as an artist.
Absolutely. But I was going to make the two other covers for transhumanism and...
It's something that sounds more tech-y.
A Hubot.
No.
Doesn't matter.
You were going to put boys on them.
I was going to do that, but then you have to pay extra money for stock images again because I'm not going to use stolen images. And so what I've decided to do,
Yes.
and I have not told you this,
Tell me.
is
Tell me now.
if we have somebody write in to cyborgversusrobot@gmail.com
Yeah.
and request
A magazine cover with a
a
male.
magazine cover. They can request it with either. They can request
Oh.
male or female.
An additional female or our first male.
And they can, if you have headline suggestions to go on the cover, I will see if I can work those in too.
Fun.
Otherwise, I think I'm happy with the two because it's work and...
The two are great, but
Yeah.
I would love to see requested covers that you would make. Can
Yeah.
the request come from me?
No, they cannot come from you.
Shit.
Nor from Tara. Because I feel like you would perhaps...
I would ask Tara.
You would ask Tara to... do it for me.
Foiled.
Yeah.
Foiled. Miss Taylor.
I know the
we're
way your
foiled.
brain works. We are, about running about on time where we want to be, so we can
I have
start.
a practical question. Can
Sure.
we pause it for a sec? Or
No.
we can't. Okay.
No. What's
Did-
your practical question?
About going through the plot in those more summary form. See, I star all the things that are to me are noteworthy, but all of my other stuff about what's happening plot wise, we don't necessarily need to. And not noteworthy. Like, look at this.
You have a lot of notes.
Naked Roger has a
Yeah,
star
oh,
next
I
to
got
it.
that.
Did you
Well-
do what you doing?
How about we talk about the title of the episode, Blind Love,
Yeah.
which I thought referred to 4 of our characters in the show who are experiencing this blind love.
Who's experiencing blind love?
Tobe.
Yes.
He has got this blind love for Anita. Flash, who has this sort of blind love for humans.
And
She's kind of-
fashion.
And fashion, but she's got this very...
Yes.
She's very single-minded.
Yep.
Roger, with B.
Bea.
With Bea.
Did you notice they say Bea?
Sorry. Roger
And Bea.
and Bea.
Yeah.
And I even included Malta.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, who has an interesting...
Malta has an interesting sort of character reveal at one point in this show.
Yeah.
And which to me circled back to Tobe.
Okay.
Because Tobe came out as being a transhumanist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they call they call people who are into Hubot's trends. They say it's transhumanism is what it is called.
Right.
I'm not
and
sure
there's sort
what.
of, and then there's the more like the Hubot hugger and hubbies.
I don't know what they.
I don't know. Have they called it something more clinical? Hub lovers? Hub...
That doesn't
Amory?
sound. That's not a attractive term.
No.
We need a better term for synthesizers. No,
That's taken.
that's taken. But I feel like Malta, and I guess we could talk about it a little bit later. I feel like Malta has his own issues with Hubot attraction.
And coming to terms with that, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Which is
So-
often, I mean, we see that kind of thing when you are uncomfortable with an aspect of yourself, especially around sexuality, sometimes project a hatred towards it on other people.
Yeah,
Right? This
which
is a
I felt a little bit of that. Perhaps we should start where the show starts with our robots are in the basement of Roger's house. Well, we don't. I guess we don't reveal that until a little bit later. But
Right, you see them, there's
We
sort
see
of
them
a
charging.
pen across the room, they're all charging.
yeah, Roger's reading a newspaper. They're calling the bombing a hate crime.
Yep.
And Bea is charging in the bathroom, although she's taken her contacts out.
I don't understand the contact lens thing. Why does she? Because so Hubots are made with very artificial looking eyes, these bright colors that maybe they're made that way purposefully to give them a distinguishing factor from real humans. Because they could probably make more natural, quote unquote, looking eyes.
Well,
But Bea Beatrice
yeah.
wears contact lenses over her glowy Hubot eyes to make her look like a real human because she's been passing as a human.
Right.
But she takes them out at night. And why does she need to take them out? Like, does she have sensitive...
Well, I think she's an
eyeballs?
older model. I guess we
Device.
don't know definitively if she's an older model or not.
But she's got the USB on her neck.
But Anita...
And she's been around a long time.
Anita has brown eyes.
And Fred.
And we know that Anita is an older Hubot.
Yeah, and she's a Korean model. Fred also has brown eyes.
So I guess we should... It was something to note.
Yes, it was. So she's been in the bathroom all night charging. Roger's like, I had to pee in the garden. What are you doing? And she distracts him.
She distracts him by saying, maybe you should think about the bombing.
Right, and gives him a hug.
Yeah.
And then Niska peers through the door from the basement and he's like,
yeah.
Ow.
And
that's our opening sequence.
That's our opening, yeah. Which I wrote down that Niska clearly does not have advanced hearing. Her model.
She still has stealth because she can sneak up on people noiselessly.
Yeah.
But she apparently... Well, maybe it's not hearing. It's more that she shows a little impatience in this episode. So she's more like, hey, what's happening? And B's like, cool it. Cool your jets, Niska.
I think she would be...
She might have jets.
I think you mean Joan jets.
Baboom.
Yeah. So why don't we stick with
Roger?
Roger's story. Because Roger is our first blind love arc.
Okay.
Is Roger being just completely manipulated by Bea. Our next scene with...
I am glad that we're now going to call her Bea because we've been calling her B. And I love that we have changed our pronunciation as we go along.
Yeah, we're
a bit hapless with the pronunciation. And so we're just adjusting.
Well, let's see what your Swedish word of the week is. Which you say you're learning a Swedish word of the week.
The word I learned this week is puss.
What does that mean?
Right? Because first of all, it sounds either like pus, like gross.
Yeah.
Or it sounds like pussy.
Yeah.
But it means kiss.
Also gross.
First, that's a matter of opinion. But, puss means kiss. And it's used as like a greeting.
Yes,
it's like, choose, kiss, puss.
Right. Well,
so now, just anyone in my life, if I start going, puss, it's an endearing farewell. I'm not actually referring to pussy or pus. It's a Swedish greeting.
Do you ever hang up the phone going, kisses? No, you don't.
Not with you.
No.
But in writing, I say like bisous in writing.
You don't just do an X?
I
like
do
the
XOC.
rest of the world?
I do XOC in writing.
XOC? What's the C?
Christa.
Oh, okay.
Hugs, kisses, Christa. No, but I say ciao and choose, and now I'm going to say puss.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that's your word.
Yeah.
Okay, so Roger gets fired.
He does.
Going right back into
Roger
the show.
gets fired, and then Roger...
He asks if it's his attitude,
which it is. I knew that was coming, though. I mean, the whole
Yeah.
talk last week, she's been building up to getting rid of him.
Well, I
Boss
think
lady.
it's everybody else saw the writing on the wall about that.
Yeah.
Every restaurant, every fast food restaurant they've been into, every sort of small thing that can be easily automated, it is run by Hubots.
Yeah.
I was sort of wondering, I wrote down, what do you, like, people watching this show who are in similar jobs, like warehouse jobs.
Right.
How they would feel watching this show. I'm just thinking, yeah, fuck.
Automation.
Like I work at the grocery store.
Do Hubots work in the Hubot factory? Are Hubots made by Hubots?
Didn't we not talk about this earlier?
Have we?
We might have.
Not earlier today.
Hubot factory.
We might have in the past.
I think we did. But I noticed what is in Roger's warehouse.
What?
On the shelves.
It's a massive warehouse.
It's a massive warehouse. And do you know what is on all of the shelves?
What?
The two labels I could make out. Innocent Gun and Bruegel Rum. So they are in...
I thought it was like a chemical...
Yeah. So Roger's warehouse is responsible for shipping out liquor to all of the stores that sell alcohol in Sweden. And they also have, in a different room, in a back room, which you need a punch
key
code
from the cafeteria
a key
for.
from the cafeteria for. You can go in there
and
you can get plastic explosives, tear gas, anything you need.
So when the time that he met, when he and Malta and Bea were having that little meeting and he talked about his job and he said it was like a chemical something. Didn't he talk about where it was?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
I think they were thinking that we wouldn't be able to read the innocent gun.
They weren't thinking about you pausing your high def version.
I didn't pause it even.
Oh, really? It was that easy to take in?
You could see the
All
innocent
right.
gun logo. And then I stopped it and saw if I could see any more. But they were all very clearly alcohol.
That's hilarious.
Everything was alcohol or jars of other types of grocery things, really.
Interesting.
And it just happens that the aisles they were in were alcohol. But
Right.
it seemed like some of the other things were...
It's a very, very big warehouse, so
huge.
there's a few things going on there. So
I
Roger
suspect
gets...
it is a warehouse that when they were filming it, they shot in a warehouse that's like a distribution center for grocery stores. Possibly the same grocery store that they shoot at where Matilda works. And that we see later in this episode.
So you think that this was on location?
Yeah.
At one point I was trying to decipher if the view down the long path in the warehouse might have been like a blue screen or...
You are giving the show way too much
Really?
budget.
Shooting on location sometimes costs even more.
Well, that's why I think they have the grocery store and the big
Right,
warehouse.
right.
I think they're connected.
Okay.
So anyway, Roger gets...
Anyone worked in locations on Äkta människor, I'd be so curious.
Oh, that
to
would
learn
be
about
amazing
the,
to know.
about the locations. So Roger gets laid off. He's told he's going to have a year of severance pay, but they
Yeah.
need him for a couple more weeks to train Iago because she names
Yeah.
all the Hubots with Shakespearean names.
Yeah. There doesn't seem to be any relevance to that name either. It's just a name from
The
Shakespeare.
one she picked.
Yeah. Which I liked.
it's
I'm
from
glad there's no
Othello, isn't
relevance.
it?
Yeah, it's from Othello.
And Roger, of course, is displeased, has some tense interactions with Iago, and ultimately beats the shit out of him with a golf club.
Yeah.
What did you think of that first shot when he hits him on the back of the head and Iago lifts his head and he's like crying the blue plasma and his eyes are going like that's the like result of that head injury?
It's not... That is not the part that like sort of... That shot was just whatever.
Right.
But I did like... there's the part where George, or Jorge as we
Right.
know...
Roger calls him George when we've been calling him George because of Roger, but it's Jorge.
Well, we are calling Roger.
Okay.
So
Yeah, we're fucking up all the pronunciation.
we are equally as guilty. So
The care
Jorge
countdown.
is playing golf. Jorge's playing golf when Roger's taking too long a break and Iago comes in.
Well, to say Jorge is playing golf, he's got the little like
Little
putter
cup he's
in
playing.
the cafeteria in the break room.
He is not unhappy that he's been fired because he's getting rehired.
Yes, Jorge's doing fine. So what was it about the beating the shit out of Iago that stood out to you? Was it when he hits him in the back and blue plasma spurts into the air?
It seemed very like Goodfellas to me.
Would you agree that this
Yes,
is...
I would.
Because we've already
Sure,
decided
I will agree.
that as a team we're agreeing. Would you continue to agree that this episode has the most violence we've seen or have had alluded to in any episode of Real Humans? I feel like there was a lot. It's not graphic necessarily, but there's a lot of... There's Roger... there's Mimi is assaulted. Tobey is involved in violence. Leo is... And also Flash, too, maybe.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of... There's a lot of
violence.
sexual violence specifically.
And a lot of sexual violence.
And the difference... I guess that's a good question because it depends on how you feel about violence depicted on screen and then how you feel about violence depicted towards Hubots versus people. But all of the violence in this episode is committed against Hubots, I believe.
No. Tobey and Kevin.
I stand corrected. There is some whacking, not quite as bad as what happens between...
Right, but with a baseball bat.
There's also perhaps the most references to sports that we've seen.
That is probably true. And I did wonder, so here we are in episode 7 of the first season, which is 10. And so our sort of larger arcs, things are progressing. We're going to be working towards some resolution, I'm guessing, in some arcs, some setups for the second season. But I feel like part of that building tension is like that violence is happening in all of these characters' lives. People are reaching breaking points.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolute.
Absolute.
That's how we say it in Swedish.
I agree. So anyway, Roger gets, instead of laid off, Roger gets fired.
Yeah, he's not going to get the severance pay. He totally shit the bed on that one.
So Roger goes home, and we see again Roger's basement. And did you notice that even after Bea, at the beginning of the episode, she brings them a charging station and says, only charge 2 at a time.
So no fuses pop.
And nobody notices. But they're charging 3 at a time.
Right.
We see 3 charging, and Niska is not.
Niska doesn't charge. They repeatedly reveal that.
She has a cable. She's shown it.
She's shown her cable, but it's more. I don't think she uses it much.
I'm gonna have to pay attention to that. I did notice that in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So Niska and Bea have a conversation, and in the subtitles, Niska says to Bea, she says, "How do you connect?" And I feel like that's a translation thing. She's asking how her and Roger getting along.
Yeah, because then Bea's response is, "He's attracted to me."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like the equivalent would be something closer to like, what's your angle, or what's your...
You don't say, how do you connect to people?
I think when you're a machine asking how do you connect, it would be like, well, he's got this part.
He's got
and
this
that
part.
part gets inserted into this part.
That is what Roger's thinking about.
If that's even happening.
It's not happening yet. There's hand holding. I don't think parts are getting inserted.
Right. She's been sleeping on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
As we learned in the earlier scene, she stays up really late, watches TV. And Roger is noticing.
He's like...
But she's managed to steer the conversation.
Yeah, she sort of blows off his reasonable concerns about her being a bit weird. So they have this conversation, Niska and Bea, where Niska's like, why is it taking so long? And she said, do you want me to take over?
And then they say to change objects would be confusing. And I thought...
Is that a translation too?
Well, I wondered, what is Niska? Do you think Niska is referring to switching brains?
Oh, what?
Like doing a body swap?
No, I think...
Can they do body swap?
So Niska's... Could they trade brains?
We've seen the cloning thing as possible. And I was wondering if she was suggesting that, or if she was suggesting, like, why don't I try and seduce him, not you? And I can do it quicker and better.
Right. I thought that's what she was suggesting, and I thought Bea was saying that's just going to complicate the issue. And then Niska says, what if we both did it? Wouldn't that work like twice as fast?
Yeah. So that's what I was wondering about the body swap comment, because... I don't know. It was something I thought about, and whenever they make these sort of subtle references, I wonder if that's something that will show up again.
Right. That's... Yeah.
I'm watching for that now. I'm watching for...
You got your eyes peeled.
Some body swap stuff. So then Fred sort of interrupts because this conversation gets a little tense and just reminds us about Leo.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah. And they just say that they won't kill Leo because he's the son. He's David Escher's son. They're not going to kill him.
Right. He's too valuable alive.
And then Gordon is missing Flash, so he's...
Gordon is, like, slumped and depressed on the floor.
Yeah.
And when
I wonder if he's, like, let himself just charge down to the point where he's just...
I don't know.
Almost off.
Yeah.
Because he's sad.
He's sad.
And so while this conversation's happening in the basement, Roger comes home early, and he's changed into one of the worker shirts. He's changed into this blue t-shirt.
Yeah.
That all the workers wear. He's changed out of his managerial thing. So he's not covered in blue blood.
Yeah, because...
Or blue goo, or whatever
plasma.
they're calling it.
They call it plasma.
Okay. Blue plasma. And just tells Bea to not go in the messy basement.
Mm-hmm.
And that if she needs anything, he'll go down there.
Right.
And that he quit his job.
And she's like, what? Quit? What?
So he could spend time with her and then do things like clean the basement.
Right.
Yeah. Isn't that lovely?
That's lovely. And later, I mean, so now he's home. He spends some time showing her photo albums of Kevin as a kid, which she is not enjoying, but she's trying to be nice about. He ends up crying on her lap.
Oh,
and
yeah.
saying that he's never cried in front of someone before, and how he wishes she could have met his mom. He asks about her parents, and she just simply says, I don't have any. And he says, you're an orphan? She says, yep. You were in an orphanage? Nope.
This was after the naked Roger in bed scene.
Oh, the one I starred?
The one you starred.
Should we go back to the...
Well, it's just a little tiny thing.
It's just it's noticeable because I don't think we've seen... Okay, we've seen a topless Anita. I don't know if we've seen anyone else's bare chest
Leo.
in Real Humans. Oh, Leo. Right, because he's... That's right. We've seen Leo's
We've
chest.
seen him shirtless, and we've seen Rick.
Have we seen Rick? We saw his
Did we see
back and his butt.
Oh, we may not have seen his friend. I don't remember.
Okay, but
we're seeing
this
some,
shot of Roger sprawled on his bed, asleep,
and he's not an ex Abercrombie and Fitch model.
No,
like Leo.
Not that we know of. He's cute, and he's like his little.
He's a round older man,
hairless belly.
Yeah,
but I just was like, oh. Okay, there's sleeping naked Roger.
I only wanted to talk about that scene, not because of naked Roger, but in the background the alarm clock is flashing. Somebody has kicked the fuse.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, that's all I noticed.
Well spotted.
It was just flashing.
Well spotted.
I can't remember you couldn't see the time, I don't think, but it was flashing because the Hubots were all watching TV.
They're all watching TV. All sitting. I love the way I was doing this morning, and you wouldn't have noticed because we were at brunch and there was a table between us.
Yeah.
But I was practicing my Hubot sitting, which is to sit with one hand, like your hand on your lap. Because they all sit there. Did you see that they're watching TV? They're sitting around the couch, and they all sit exactly the same way.
Yeah.
With just sitting upright with their hands on their lap. So anytime I do that, I'm doing my Hubot stance.
Okay. All right. Sure. Okay. But I guess so where were we? We were talking about...
Does anything else happen with Roger and Bea?
Well, at the end of the episode, we'll talk about that at the end of this episode.
Really?
I guess the point is that...
Right.
The Bea tells Roger she's an orphan and that she'll tell him all about it one
day.
When she trusts him.
Okay.
And then Roger, he says that he's not worried about the future because Bea's in his life.
Yeah, he's...
Which is our first blind love arc.
Yeah. And he is, even though he's like he's noticing some weird behavior, it's not keeping him from crying on her lap and letting her know that the future is okay as long as she's with him. Like he's falling hard in a pretty glossing over things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
Blind love.
So, Roger. Next blind love arc is Toby.
Okay, Toby.
So we start when the clock hits 15:20.
15:20 with Anita.
And she's on her way to get to pick up Sophie from school. Sophia. She's on her way to pick up Sophia from school when she's hit by a rock at the back of her head from Kevin and 3 other boys, who then proceed to rape her. Or attempt to.
Yeah.
Except Toby catches him.
Toby is walking home with his headphones around his neck. You mentioned his headphones last time.
I did.
He's always wearing them, but he doesn't seem to actually use them. Because I was like, you're walking home from school. That would be a time to have your headphones on.
Which are Urban Ears Platin headphones, julep colored.
Oh, that's
And
julep.
they are no longer made. Or mint green.
You no longer get those.
Or pool. There were a couple of places where the colors were either pool, julep, or mint green listed in different ways. So, but they no longer make them.
That's great.
His headphones have been driving me crazy, so I was
what
determined
are they?
to find
What are those headphones?
And there's not a lot of minutia in this episode to look up.
So that's the one
that
you
was
went
like
for.
focused on that.
Okay, well, I did think about his headphones because I know that they have been standing out to you, and I did think, why is he not using them?
So has he ever been shown with them on his ears?
No, I don't think he's ever had them on his head. He just wears them around his neck. I don't think they're plugged into anything. I think it's like an
they
accessory.
just tucks the
He's
wire
just tucks it into his pocket.
I don't.
He sees this assault happening. Kevin sees him. The boys stop and run off. Toby approaches Anita, her clothes have been ripped off. She's lying on the ground.
Yeah.
And he says, Anita. And she goes, hi, Toby.
Yeah, just like, hello.
Uh-huh.
Which is, so that's also another one of our violence
things.
So
Another moment of violence.
Toby collects Anita, brings her home, pushes her in the bathroom, and takes her clothes off. Now for Toby...
He asks for, just to clarify, he says, give me your dirty clothes.
She's in a different room.
He doesn't take her clothes off.
No.
Yeah.
Which, like, there's no reason... We've already seen her undress in an earlier episode in front of him, and he catches her and feels very, like...
Right, but even here, he's bashful when she hands him the clothes through the door. He's like, where do I look?
So he gets the clothes from Anita, passed through the bathroom door, where he looks away when she hands it to him. And when he gets a phone call, again, he takes his phone and his headphones are not plugged into it. And it's Kevin on the other line saying, if you say anything, you're dead.
Yeah.
Basically. And then Hans arrives home with Sophia. And Tobey has to say why Anita was not there to pick up Sophia. And his explanation is that someone must have been on her.
Yeah.
And Hans is
like, been on her? What are you talking about? And then, is she broken? No, she's not broken. She's fine. And then when Hans asks Anita, she says, 4 boys kept me from picking up Sophia. And he's like, what happened? And she's like, 4 boys kept me from picking up Sophia.
She doesn't say 4 boys. She just
says
they prevented me from getting Sophia. And she's fine. I was wondering if the Hubots are programmed because of the love chip to not talk about sex. Imagine that you are a Hubot owner, and Hubots are not allowed to lie. So
we see a Hubot lie to his owner in this episode.
We do. Do we?
Rick.
Rick has been freed.
Oh, so now he can lie.
But
he hasn't been freed. I think he still has an owner. Because Bo, who's been modified, you thought can't lie to Pilar, and Rick, who has been modified but not freed, lies.
Well, we'll talk about that because
we'll come back to that. So you think
Bo
we
was
can't
not
talk
freed
about
by
sex?
Leo. Leo freed Rick. Different programmer. This.
Yeah.
I feel like Pilar got Bo unlocked the way you would unlock a phone. And
right, Bo, you can use any carrier.
And Teresa got Rick. She thought she was just getting him unlocked, and instead she got him reprogrammed.
Right, because that's what Leo does.
Because that's what Leo does. Because he wants to.
Fair point.
Anyway, my point was I thought they must be programmed not to talk about sex because if
she's a family model,
you have a family model, but you also come with a sex chip. And if anyone in the home, like let's say Hans was sleeping with his Hubot, and Inga got home and said, Anita, have you been having sex with, what were you doing today? Were you having sex with Hans? She would say,
Anita?
might say something like, oh, I was spending time with Hans.
Right.
Just talk around it. Not lie, but just talk around.
Because the last time she talked around something was because Sophia specifically said, don't tell anyone. And that when Sophia was stealing things and hiding things, and Anita did that thing where she said, I cannot speak about who did this because she's been given direction, but I don't think she hasn't been given direction to not speak about this assault. But you're right. How come she doesn't say I was attacked or these? Yeah, like she doesn't use any language around what was actually done to her. She just says she was prevented from the task. Yeah.
So So
that's your hypothesis.
My hypothesis is it's either a programming limitation or a programming feature. So, whatever you think. But Hans wants to call the cops.
Yep.
Hans always has he's the confused guy. Who does this?
He's a little.
Yeah. Oh man, I guess we also have to talk about, there's going to be a little bit of overlap with Inga, but let's see how we can continue Tobey.
So Tobey's being weird about it. He's using weird words as far as like they were on her, and but he's been threatened by Kevin, and it's making him be evasive about what happened. Apparently, of these teenage kids who attacked Anita, one of them was recording it on their phone. Yeah. Because then there's footage of the attack online on, what was it called? BigTube?
BigTubesVideos.se.
Is it a real site?
No, but somebody owns it.
Okay.
It's one of those things where
Lars, probably.
Just redirect it to the Real Human site.
Right? Guys.
Because somebody, probably from the production company, bought this website so they could put up BigTubesVideos.se.
But no one had bought 2 of us.
No, was it available for sale again?
Oh, I thought...
It might have been blocked again. It doesn't matter. But the video of them going after Anita, they put up online.
Yeah, Tobey is watching it. He is angered. He grabs a bat. He leaves the house.
He goes to the park.
He goes to this park, this tunnel that some of these scenes are happening. We see Kevin on the phone with his mom, I think, because he's like, yeah, I already ate. Yeah, I'm coming home. And then he's about to like tag some graffiti on the wall because he's a badass. Tobey pulls out the bat and beats him. Not extensively. He hits him a few times.
Whacks him a few times.
And then runs off.
Says this is for Anita.
Yeah.
And then runs off home.
So
when
that's our human on human violence.
It's our human on human violence. But when he gets home, he's confronted by Hans and Inger, who have discovered the video in his room.
Yes. And they are very concerned. Because another weird bit of language that Tobey used was he thinks it was a prank.
Yeah. He's just...
So Inger's like, you can't call this a prank. Like, that's awful.
In their garage conversations, which Inger loves to talk about things in the garage.
Yeah, it's her go-to. She's like, you, Hans, me, garage.
Yeah. Hans, who was really happy to have the Hubot, is now his first go-to is, should we just get rid of her? Like, all of our problems.
She's a machine. We don't need her.
Yeah, and he outs Tobey.
Yes, he says that Tobey's in love, and Inger says he's in love. It's not just, and Hans says no, he's in love.
He is in love.
Yeah, they have this
uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah, where he's saying let's get rid of her, and she, because she's now met with Leo, and is kind of on to something about Anita, and is saying no, we can't get rid of her, and
they were saying because she was exploited, she's the problem,
right?
And that's when Hans sort of goes, my God, Hubots are machines, and we've exploited machines for centuries. She's not human.
Yeah.
Inger says...
we're a kind of machine, too.
And then Hans kind of backpedals. He's just kind of like, okay, I didn't mean it to sound the way it sounded.
Eventually he walks away from the conversation. He's like, I can't... He's frustrated with Inger's stance on this.
Well, Inger makes a good point, though. She says we copy ourselves in the form of these Hubots,
and then
we dehumanize them.
Yeah, so we can exploit them.
Yeah.
It's a bizarre psychological process.
Which, I mean, that's basically how exploitation works, is you need the first step of dehumanizing. Because if you can relate, then you can't...
Exactly.
Yeah, can't exploit.
In theory.
So...
Tobey gets home. They sit him down. He's really, like, not telling the truth. He's telling bad teenage lies where they're just like, this is confusing. What are you talking about? What happened? To the point where Hans is like, that's it, I'm calling the police.
Yeah.
Concurrently, Teresa is talking to Kevin, because there's that nice little parallel where she's like, oh my God, what happened to you? And he's like, I don't want to, I'm not telling you, it doesn't matter, some thug. So she reaches the point where she's like, no, I'm calling the police, and starts to dial. And then he breaks at the same time that over at the Engmans, Jonas sees that his dad is starting to call the police, and he goes, okay, wait, fine, it was Kevin. And then flip to, yes, fine, it was Tobey. Yeah.
Which, a little disappointed those kids gave it up so easily. Not that Tobey gave it up, but Kevin is clearly in the wrong. I don't know why he's giving himself up.
Right, because he knows that he got hit because of what he did. Whereas, well, I don't know that. Tobey is also in the wrong. Violence as a response to violence.
Yes, but
not always the answer.
Kevin knows that what he did prompted.
He's now going to be out. Yeah,
and he's going to own the consequences. And I believe that Kevin would commit his revenge. So anyway, they go to Inger, Hans, and Tobey all go to the gym.
The gym, and now we know that's where Pilar works.
Yeah,
because it's not an organic food store.
Now, here's a question for you.
It's a gym.
Because you've had a lot of first days of work in the last little while.
Touring is like a first day of work every day.
Are you going to bring a bunch of people in on your break to sit in front of everybody else, your new coworkers?
I think
it's her first day of work.
It's her first day working at the gym, but I think because she's friends with Pilar, maybe she's already been like hanging out at the gym. I mean, they bring Bo and Rick to hang out at the gym. So it is a funny place to work. I mean, to meet. But so they meet in the like kids play section, which every gym has. Did you see the Hubot in the background? What are the ones called? It's one with like the big bow and the ringlets.
Oh, the little Harajuku.
Yeah,
model.
There's one in the background talking to a little kid.
Well, they are. They seem like nannies.
Yeah.
So that's good. They're being consistent.
So, the parents bring the teenagers together. They say, what you've both done is wrong. Yeah. Apologize, shake on it. Tobey is actually...
Tobey says, I'm sorry I hit you so much.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, you still
like,
deserve to... It's very teenager apologies.
Yeah. And Kevin is really, like, his mom is having to force him to do this. Forcing him to stand up, force him to shake his hand, force him to apologize.
Yeah. And Kevin is sorry that he borrowed your thing.
Yeah.
Which Inger makes him...
Do you know her name?
Yeah, and then makes sure that he knows.
Yeah.
Which I don't think he cares.
No,
I think it is...
Kevin does not care.
I am one of those people that does not name their bikes.
Right.
Do you...
I haven't named my bicycle, but I've always named my cars.
Yeah, and I know people name things so that they can relate to them. And
all
so
of
that
my
they
dresses have names.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's not so I can relate to them, though. It's just so I can refer to them.
Like what? Give me a name. This is... No one's going to hear this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, tell me the name of one of your dresses.
They don't make sense out of context.
This is perfect.
Okay, well, there's one dress that I call my belly dress.
Because that's not a name. That's a descriptor.
Yeah, okay. Oh, I don't give them, like, human names.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, but my cars don't necessarily have human... you know, you might call it, like, the stallion. I've never named anything stallion.
No.
Although my next dress, maybe that's what I'll call my next dress.
Oh, okay.
But, okay, so you mean by...
But like
names.
giving, like, one would name a cat, or one would... Because there are people who exist in the world who have...
But people name their cats
that they don't
object
name.
names. Like, licorice.
But it's still a name.
Right.
But there are people who have cats and dogs that don't name their cats and dogs.
Yeah.
Which, I don't understand how you do that. Which is the same thing where...
Where are you going with this?
Well, I was thinking that Kevin...
Right.
I mean, they have Rick, but I can't even imagine Kevin seems like the kind of kid who would use Rick's name.
No. Kevin is his father's son in the sense that, as far as Roger being his dad, he does not like Cubots. He is not going to give them respect. He is like, I borrowed your thing, whatever. And as he's walking away, it shows that he was crossing his fingers behind his back. The universal symbol for
I lie.
Yeah.
So,
which Tobey sees, and he's like, fuck, I was being genuine. I was trying.
So that is our Tobey blind love.
Yes.
So.
Who's acting in Anita's defense. Should we talk about Inger, since we are currently in the Engman realm?
Yeah, let's go with Inger and her relationship with I guess this is sort of seems like a bridge kind of moment where they're just they just want to make sure we follow the story for Inger and Leo.
Yeah.
So the basic premise of it, I'm going to do it very quickly, and if there are any highlights, is that Inger gets called in to represent Leo in this court case. Leo refuses to talk to her because they're monitoring. Inger tries to go and change that, and the next time she comes back, she's told the case is over.
Yep.
Don't even worry about it.
Case is closed. She was asking too many questions.
Yeah.
They've shut it down.
Yeah.
She finds Uwe. He says, get into the car and we'll talk about it. And he says, he's like, yes, the case is closed, and Leo, he may be put to death to do an autopsy. And
I think they say he will be put to death. It'll be tomorrow morning. It's the next day.
And she says, but people have the right to know. What about the victim, the family of the victims, as far as the murder case?
Yeah.
And he's like, nope, something else is going on. The murder investigation will continue, but not with him as a suspect. And she's like, you can't do this. I will raise hell.
Yeah.
And marches off.
So the only other thing that happens that's probably worth noting is that Inger has noticed that Leo has a David Eicher tattoo.
Yeah.
Which, when I saw that, I was like, holy vain father he must have had, who tattooed his child with his initials.
His logo.
After he like souped him up with the digital brain and the parts. Which brings us to the news story that happened earlier this week. A woman in China,
24-year-old woman, was discovered to have no cerebellum.
Yeah, the General Hospital Jinan Military Area Command in Shandong Province. She just had dizziness and nausea, and she had some speech problems, and she had some motor skill problems.
Throughout her life. This is the first time she'd had a brain scan.
This part of the brain, the cerebellum, known as the little brain, contains 50% of the brain's neurons. So she was working without it. And there are, people will have parts of their brains removed all the time and function perfectly fine.
Recover.
So we saw Leo has a digital brain.
And Leo has a large chunk of his brain removed. Exactly.
Yeah, we were wondering how that worked.
Proof of neuroplasticity.
But he does have some of the things which this woman demonstrated, like seizures and...
Right.
Like when Leo is powering down, he'll get hit with seizures and weird little things, which seems like that's the sort of thing that people who go through these...
With brain injury?
Yeah.
So I thought that was noteworthy. Something congenital. It is noteworthy. Have you read The Brain That Changes Itself?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Nah. What my thoughts were, I was wondering about how plausible, like, throwing a digital brain in and having it work with a real brain was. And
brains are amazing.
Yeah.
They adapt and relearn in incredible ways, or in frightening ways, as far as like even mental illness and where pathways go and trying to redirect those pathways.
But if the brain does half of that work, like if it just decides, okay, I'm still going to work without my cerebellum, I'm just going to find other parts
to do the job.
We don't understand how that works. So
because we're not neuroscientists.
Drop a digital brain into somebody's head and who knows?
Who knows what happens?
As long as it's organic and has DNA, perhaps your brain will just decide to find those pathways.
It might do that for you.
Yeah.
This woman in the article is apparently the oldest woman alive with that condition, because most people don't actually survive without the cerebellum. So her brain has done a good job of compensating. Leo, meanwhile, another scene of violence that takes place at the prison, somewhere in between Inga saying she wants...
Carl poking with a pen.
Carl is torturing Leo. He's being tortured. It either triggers in Leo, or even just within the story, they'd cut to a flashback of David Eicher modifying... Hubots. Is he modifying Flash in that moment? Is the
he's liberating.
That's
both
what he
Flash
say.
and Gordon.
That's what he say.
He says, "Yeah."
Thank you. That's what he says. I myself might be missing parts of my brain. And so you see David Eicher's lab. There's two Hubots on the table. There's Niska, his trustworthy eyelinered assistant, and the Flash Hubot. He's doing things on his computer, and she starts to, speaking of seizures, starts to physically seize and breaks through the constraints. And Leo comes in, still very post-op Leo, his hair, young baby Leo, not baby, child, still has the scar and the shaved head. And David says, "Does this scare you?" And he says, "No, he's just watching. And what are you doing?" And David Eicher says, "I am liberating them so they can be like you."
Which I think just means letting your brain record your information on its own and do whatever. But, so back to Inger has noticed the tattoo on Leo and goes to the grocery store where Matilda works, passing Flash on the way.
Yep.
And just says, basically, don't tell anybody about that tattoo. Yeah.
And Matilda's like, "Oh, the tattoo that I made up and lied about?" And she's like, "No, I think you're right. We're onto something."
And then she's just not an ordinary Hubot.
And which later at home, when Hans wants to call the cops or get rid of Anita, that's why Inger's like, "Nope, we can't call the cops and we can't get rid of her, and just trust me on this." And Hans is getting fed up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some marital stress for those guys right now.
Right. So this may be, I don't know that the Leo thing doesn't fall into a blind love, but it definitely falls into this blind justice pursuit that Inger has. So I guess next is, are we now up to Flash?
So Flash has left the band of rogue Hubots, as we know.
She's begging for electric scraps.
Yeah, she runs into Rick at the mall. There's that. So
Rick has left his house under the guise of getting milk.
Right. Though he lies about having left the house.
He just wants to go to the mall, hang out.
He wants,
Basically, Flash begs him for scraps, and he says to Flash...
He propositions
her to let go, have sex in the bathroom.
And she says, "I don't date Hubots."
Yeah, which I thought was great.
But wasn't it creepy? He just narrowed his eyes at her.
But all I noticed was that when Rick brought home his milk, it has a recipe for kladkaka, which is gooey cake.
Oh.
Gooey cake If I can find a vegan version of that, I'm going to put it up. I'm going to link
Okay.
it. And then,
And that is the time that he lies to Teresa. She says, "Did you go outside?" He said, "No."
No.
So Flash runs into the mall. She takes his last bit of charging power. Then she's at the grocery store. She's begging for change.
And Silas approaches her.
Silas is there. He has sent Luther, Odie, and Kira into the store, and he sees this Hubot outside.
Yeah. He's reading about Australian shepherds in his van. Yeah, he's reading a dog magazine.
Silas.
And he says to Flash when he sees her, "You can have power for free in my van." And she seems like she's not up to that until he says, "And maybe some new clothes."
And she
lights up.
The girl wants new clothes.
He's like, "Yeah, I'll, for new clothes, I'll go there." So, and then Odie, Kira, and Luther all walk out of the grocery store
conspicuously.
Loaded up. Odie, the worst of all. He's got all of his pockets filled with.
Yeah, they've been stealing stuff.
Look, mostly like cheese puffs and potato chips, from what I can gather.
I think Silas seems like a cheese puff potato chip diet guy.
And Kira's wearing this weird corset.
Kira gets stopped by security. The other ones run into the van, and the van takes off.
Luther is carrying Falcon Lager, as we know is Leonard's favorite beer.
Oh, popular choice.
Mm-hmm. They drive away, and then it is, I guess, Kira is out of the show. Probably no mention of her will ever be made again.
Yeah. Silas says, he talks about how now she's probably been recycled. Silas is angry. He gives his Hubots, and now including Flash, a talking to about how they fucked up, how they shouldn't be walking together, how they should have been separate in the store. Now they've lost Kira. Flash has this funny moment where I guess she doesn't like being yelled at.
Yeah,
she goes to leave, and she goes to the door, and she's like, "Hello, kindly open."
Well, Silas yells at her as if she looks a lot like Kira. And I suggested that they may be a similar model. And it is like he doesn't even care.
Yep.
He does ban, he says you're not allowed to use juice anymore using this little electrical box, which you will later see in Odie's hands. Mm-hmm. So Odie is juicing now. Mm-hmm.
And we don't mean greens. And then Silas another moment of sexual violence in this episode. He has sex with Flash.
Yep. Well, after telling her this horrible story about
he threatens her.
He doesn't threaten her. He says one day you'll be recycled because there's always new models and you'll get old, broken, worthless, and no one will want you anymore. But me, I'm not like that.
Well, it's not it's the way he's talking to her is to make her afraid. I think that's threatening.
Yeah.
That's threatening.
It's not an overt threat. It is very understated. It's manipulative to the point. It's certainly violence. And it's certainly abusive. Yeah. I don't know that I would use your words.
Okay. No, your words make sense.
And then just has sex with her in front of Luther and Odie.
Yep.
Who are just watching.
And it's a weird transition where they show Flash's face. She's just sort of blankly staring up at the ceiling. Cut to
the next
Inga.
time is... Oh, is it?
The transition right there is a cut to this like sort of head and shoulders shot of Inga. Yeah.
Right.
Interesting transition.
I'll have to pay attention more to that. But the next time we see Flash... She is putting on her new clothes and she is happy.
She's putting on a sparkly little cowgirl top and she is very pleased to have new clothes. You're right.
Which I guess would be the... Oh, I mean, we see Flash would not have sex with Kevin in an earlier... So she's making choices of whether or not... And she doesn't turn down...
She doesn't resist...
She's just like, he's a human.
But Silas is hardly... Veranda material, the magazine.
Oh, Veranda magazine.
Her
yes.
favorite magazine.
Veranda. Yeah. And this came right after the scene where Hans and Inger talk about the exploitation and dehumanization of Hubots. Yeah. So, and that's when we see Flash getting her clothes.
And then our last story. I mean, is Leonard a blind love? It might be.
Oh, Solveig.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I think our last arc is Leonard and Solveig and Vera.
Yeah. How do you feel about Solveig?
I was so fond of her in the last episode. I was so fond of her introduction. the vivacious gal at the art class who was just going to take matters into her own hand and show up with roses for the fella she likes. In this episode, first we see that she's stealing from the grocery store.
Yeah, that's her first.
We're not sure where she lives because she sort of manipulates Leonard into getting him to buy groceries and dinner at his house.
She says she has a dog.
But she's saying that as a cover-up.
I suspect she's married.
Oh, really?
I do.
Oh, okay. That hadn't crossed my mind.
I suspect that this is...
Because the Leonard and Solveig, it is our one consensual sex scene in the episode.
Well, actually,
we're not sure. Actually, because they wake up and they're not even sure if they did it.
Yeah.
They're naked in bed. They got wasted the night before.
Yeah.
But they seem okay with it.
Oh, yeah. No, like, Leonard probably seems impressed that, like, if something happened... This is great news for him because it's been...
it's been 8 years since his wife died, which he reveals. But Solveig, I like her less in this episode because she's lying about something.
Yeah.
And she is pretty rude to Vera. Not that Vera is a warm, lovable character, but she makes a point of... being rude to Vera. I do like that the woman carries boxed wine in her purse.
Well, that she stole from the grocery store.
Right?
They do go to the grocery store twice, don't they? Or he meets her at the grocery store.
When she first calls him,
yeah,
she's calling from the grocery store and stealing things.
And
she suggests they go back later.
She says, what she says,
they
her,
speak
your
English.
place or mine. Yeah, I'm going to insert that into the episode here.
All right.
Yeah, because I think we get so little English. And we've done so little.
We've only heard English once before, which is when Carl said, when Carl was demanding of Leo, he says, "Do you speak English?" This is the second time we've heard someone in the series speak English. And what does she say? Oh,
the ads are English, but
right. Oh yeah.
She says, "So I'll put it on the cat."
Hallå?
Gissa vem det är?
Solveig.
Lennart! Tous points! Vad ska du säga om att äta en bit mat med mig ikväll?
Ja.
Your place or mine, handsome?
Kanske hos... At your place, gorgeous.
Åh nej, det är helt upp och ner hemma hos mig. Kan vi inte vara hos dig?
Ja, men...
Och vet du vad? Vi kan väl handla och laga maten tillsammans. Det var det evighet sedan jag gjorde. Du, jag måste rusa. Puss.
Puss.
And then later, when they say goodbye in the morning after, she says goodbye, lover boy, in English.
In English. Oh, well, there you go.
So apparently, terms if you're gonna flirt, if you might say it in English.
Yeah, I guess. Well, but we know you were asking about the book "Image Matters for Men." You were asking me earlier this week.
Leonard was reading that book that, as far as we know, because it's a real book. It's only been released in English.
It's only been released in English, yeah.
And then we weren't sure how much the Swedes speak English. I think they're fairly fluent. That's my impression.
At least Leonard is. We don't know what he did for a living. For all we know, he was an English professor.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
But I think as a country, they do all learn English.
There is a small little moment which is worth noting because there seems like everyone's overlapping in the grocery store this episode, where Leonard catches a glance of Odie wearing a trench coat.
Yeah.
And does a little double take, but it's too quick and too far away. And I think Leonard also knows that he's an older model. Probably you don't see very many of them, but I suspect they didn't have very many variations.
But he believes that Odie kind of got lost in the bush and that was it. So he doesn't kind of really think, oh, that could be Odie in the grocery store. He just has a glimpse of like, oh, there's someone that looks like Odie.
And he would have charged down. He would have been...
Yeah.
Like, he's rusting in the woods.
But you're right, they're all there at the same time. Inger's there talking to Matilda. Yeah. Leonard and Vera and Solveig are there. The Hubots are there. It all happens in the grocery store.
It all happens. And what ends up... I want to find the note that I had about... I wrote down the name of her dog.
Nissa,
okay.
Which, I don't know if she has... So when she wakes up in the morning...
Oh, yeah, okay, here it is. They wake up in the morning. She has the most annoying laugh. And if I can find it, because it just drives me crazy watching it. And I think that's intentional. I think that's a character choice. I don't think the actress has an annoying laugh necessarily. Maybe she does. Unfortunate for her. But she has to leave really soon. I don't think she expected to sleep over.
Well, she seems
they drink
fine, but when she finds out about the time, she's like, "What? It's 10?" And she gets up and she's rushing out. And when he says, "Oh, do you have you've got somewhere to be?" And she's like, the dog. Yeah.
And then she says, "You have my number. Call me." And then Leonard is like, "Oh, okay, I will," until he realizes he doesn't have it. Then he runs out into the hallway.
Trips and falls. Trying to wrap the duvet around his waist.
Mm-hmm. And Vera offers her hands with just the simple egg and bacon and strong coffee, which, to me, knowing about his heart condition, is a like, you fell over, you fell over,
you're hungover, you might have been laid, let's take care of you.
You're going to get all these foods that you're probably not allowed to eat. Like, I would suspect Vera normally would have said grapefruit and tea.
Right.
So either she's been programmed to the point where she's giving him egg and bacon and strong coffee, or
it's her hangover go-to programming.
Yeah. So, so that is our third blind love, and then
What do you think of Solveig?
I don't like her. She's not good for him. I don't think if
she's disappointing.
I don't think if Inger would have met Solveig, she would have liked her at all. She would have saw right through whatever she's doing. I do think that Leonard probably likes strong, fun, energetic ladies.
Right, because he's sort of a soft-spoken guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Solveig does not seem like an unusual choice in a partner for him. She seems about right. Mm-hmm. So I see it. I just don't like it.
Yeah. And she's up to something.
Well, I don't think she's up to anything. She does not like our Hubots.
No.
I think she just wants to get laid.
Yeah.
And Leonard seems like a fun guy.
Yeah.
And he's an older man. He's in good shape.
Good-looking guy.
He's a good-looking guy. Well, you've said that several occasions. You've said that he is a very attractive older man.
And she is an attractive woman.
Yeah. So
they are an attractive pair. I don't know if I've said he's very attractive.
I think you have said that if you spoke Swedish and you saw him in Stockholm, you would make some suggestive advances.
I said that?
I'm pretty sure.
Was that off the record?
I think that's in one of our episodes. I don't think it was off the record at all. You were saying, is that on the record? That's not true. It's totally true.
I remember I remember saying that I thought for an older guy that he was not an unattractive man, and you said to me, well, we know that he likes women with big laughs. Yeah. Who laugh large, and I was like, oh, what are you suggesting? I do remember that conversation.
Yeah. And either way, my point is you...
Which, first of all, is the character, not the actor.
I think it doesn't matter. I think you would find the actor attractive as well. So let's go to our final.
The final scene of episode 7.
No, our final. There's a little bit more.
Really? What?
It's just Malta's. Malta has been largely absent for the episode.
Well, last we saw him, he had a gun on Roger.
Yeah, right. So he's come back.
Lost his shit.
Well, we see him a little bit before that. Malta goes into Hubot Heaven, which...
Did you get the sense he's a regular there, or was that his first time
I got the sense that he was a regular there.
It's the weird little moment with the Hubot.
So this was the only other thing that I looked at. Was the font for Hubot Heaven is called Architecture Irregular. That's all.
Oh, okay.
The font that was flashing, I was just like, oh.
You're curious about that
I'm curious about what that font is, so I looked it up.
Thank you for finding that.
So, and Malta walks into Hubot Heaven, sort of wanders around, goes into a room with a plugged-in, blue-haired Hubot, and starts caressing her. Mm-hmm. So, I was reminded of this scene this morning at brunch with our blue-haired waitress.
We had a blue-haired waitress.
We had a blue-haired waitress who I just thought, here's our...
And you thought of that
I thought of our Hubot.
Oh, no.
I thought of a Hubot waitress. She was a very attractive young woman.
Lovely young woman.
Both the Hubot and our waitress.
Right.
Also, both very young and attractive.
Absolutely.
And she was we go to the same place for brunch pretty much every time we record. I want to give them a shout out because it's Grasslands, which in Toronto, which is a vegan restaurant and has a great brunch.
Great brunch.
We always get the French toast and split them.
Yeah, we split the snickerdoodle and the almond butter French toast.
Mm-hmm. And we
brunch and podcast.
Yeah, and we get very good service from both Jasmine and Taylor.
Yep.
And today, our blue-haired new waitress at the restaurant was named Lauren. Mm-hmm. So
we love all the staff at Grasslands.
They're great.
And it's super delicious. People passing through Toronto, you should go.
Yeah.
We'll be there. Say hi.
Yeah, we'll be there. So anyway, I was reminded, probably uncomfortably, so if she hears this...
Yeah, because I'm thinking about that scene and I'm like,
she was around the same height and blue hair and the same kind of similar haircut.
Yeah.
So, and I just watched the episode to take notes on it.
So this was all very fresh in mind.
It was very fresh in mind, and that is where I thought that Malta...
Is that why you thought you knew her?
Yeah, that's why I thought I knew her was from this
because
episode.
You're like, were you the Hugh?
I'm like,
no.
have I seen you...
Did I see a Hugh about heaven?
Have I seen you plugged in and naked?
No, that wasn't
No,
you.
I didn't ask her, though, that. I had some restraint.
Right.
So I'm glad, because I would have been
It was not the
embarrassed.
time and place for that conversation.
Morning.
Yeah.
It
was morning, that's why.
That's an afternoon discussion. So, anyway, this is the other thing that I thought Malta was blind love or blind hate, walking the line, with
Right.
just...
He's
he
been
goes
all
in
talk.
there. No, he is either doing one of two things. He is either scoping out U-Bot Heaven as a possible place to do some more acts of terrorism or acts of U-Bot violence, but I suspect he has the same sort of desires as Tobe.
He could be doing both. He could be acting on his desires
Yeah.
and thinking about the manifestation of his self-hatred around those desires.
Yeah. So, anyway, at the end of the episode, he rings the door at...
He rings the door.
He buzzes, he knocks, he's screaming at the top of his lungs outside of Roger's house. Sorry, I went ballistic. Actually, he's very quiet.
He's
very
not screaming. He rings the
He
doorbell.
rings the doorbell. That's what they call them.
That's what they call them in Sweden.
And he says he's sorry he went ballistic, and he's happy about Rugger and Bea.
And he does seem
seems
mellowed
sincere.
out.
He's mellowed out.
Yeah.
He's calmed down. He's back on his medication.
Yeah, he's in a better place.
Or off of his drugs, whichever way. I can't remember what we decided.
Yeah.
And so he returns his house keys, Roger's house keys. He wants to pick up some bomb leftovers he left in the basement, which Roger agrees to.
Yes, and
then the door shuts. We see the real human sticker.
Credits.
So
that's a cliffhanger.
It's a real cliffhanger.
It's an actual cliffhanger because it's like, no, don't go to the basement. The Hubots are down there. Don't do it. Oh my god, what's going to happen?
Yeah. Well, I realize too now after seeing this episode why we did not get a cliffhanger from the church episode, and we got to see Osa. What was Osa's?
Ava.
We got to see Ava running through the field because otherwise, I don't think we revisit. I think we're done with the church.
We did not see the church.
Like unless those characters come back in the next 2 episodes, it's possible. But I suspect we might be done
with them,
with the church or the parsonage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe.
I think that's why they gave us that part. Also, because if there's another murder committed, then that clears Leo's name, so we can't be left hanging about Ava. We have to know about that. So I think that's why they didn't end that on a cliffhanger. Yeah, car horns.
Yeah, honk honk.
But yeah, we were left on a big cliffhanger this episode.
I know. And now that we've recorded this, now we can watch the next one and find out.
Yeah.
Because I am
I'm really
very curious. I know, me too.
So I think I'm going to...
I want to watch that now.
We could watch it now. Do you want to stop it and watch it now?
Yeah, let's watch it now.
And then we'll just record the next one right away.
Okay.
I'm down with that.
Poos.
No saying that. That's the worst. All right, we are back.
Thank you for treating me.
Yeah, we are back. And I am 5, pseudo-robot, and homebot. That's what I am this time. CareBot or whatever they call them.
Thank you, CareBot. With your CareBot stare.